Welcome to another episode of Data Gurus. I'm really excited to welcome Dr. Olivier Toubia, who is a professor at Columbia Business School and has done a lot of work on AI, its impact on research, and so many other things. And I'm really excited to have this neutral voice that's based on real research to help us understand what's going on with AI and synthetic data. Welcome.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. Nice
Thank
to see you.
you. First of all, can you just talk, because you've been working on this topic for a while, it's become mainstream over the last few years, but this has been kind of a lot of your purpose over the last several years in terms of trying to understand and unpack how potentially AI can help understand human behavior, sentiment, understanding, if I understand that correctly.
Yeah, so I got into marketing from operations research, and in 1999, I started working on how do we optimize online surveys, particular conjoint, adaptive conjoint. How do you construct each question to get as much information as possible based on the previous questions and the person answered? So that was my entry point to marketing. And so it was at the time as someone with a math background, I was really intrigued by using math and data and models to try to capture human preferences and human behavior. And so that's how I got into marketing. And so since then, I've been doing more work on trying to use AI and machine learning to really try to quantify these things that seem like they're hard to quantify. How do we choose? How do we behave? Also the creative process, how do we create and consume creative content? So that has been really exciting for me. And then when Gen AI came about, I immediately was intrigued because
you were drawn to it.
Yeah, because the two of the first use cases were creativity and synthetic data, which are exactly measuring preferences and the creative process. So it was drawn to it immediately. And so I started doing work, more than 3 years ago, I guess, in the space. And then got into synthetic data more specifically a couple of years ago. And it's been very interesting, very exciting area. And a lot of interest these days for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, by the way, when you did the Conjoint, I know that it's such an easy way to capture consumer response because they're not thinking about it. It's just choice of figuring out and deriving the utility in terms of what's important. So I have a keen love for Conjoint and just free choice because it's just, it doesn't burden the respondent in any way in terms of their, unless the questionnaire is too long, which is a whole nother.
And there's many questions sometimes. It gets a bit nice. So then with the adaptive, the idea, could we ask fewer questions and get the same information?
Right.
And so I think also what's interesting is that when the internet came up in the 90s, the first thing we did was just let's take paper and pencil surveys and then put them online. And then we said, oh, but hold on, where we're online, maybe we can do more. We can actually do some computations in the real time. And so similarly here with Gen AI, I mean, the first instinct is let's take what we know and then just put it on Gen AI. But actually now we realizing we can do more than that actually. And how do we actually adapt the whole workflow based on these new technology as opposed to just copying and pasting to this new context? So I think it's a similar cycle, I would say.
Isn't it interesting how human behavior is like that? Because you do, even from phone to paper, I understand it's just taking what you know and putting it in another data collection and then going online. And now our human behavior is to just say, can I replicate the same thing the same way, but using a different tool?
Yeah, so the save icon is still a floppy drive. No one uses floppy drive. So this was the initial, the attachment is the paper clip.
That's right. And I know I had looked you up. I found that you had done this pretty vast research project with, I think you said 23 other academics to really understand kind of where does synthetic data, digital, and we should clarify synthetic and digital twins, what are we actually talking about? And I'll give you a moment to talk about that a little bit, but that's a lot of kind of brilliant minds looking at this and trying to figure out where the use case is. So talk to me a little bit about, number one, How did that come about? But number two, just a little bit of definition before we go into the
Yes, yes.
findings.
So the idea of synthetic data, I think, started in political science, to my knowledge, in
Okay.
2023. And initial studies saying, hey, maybe we could use LLMs to actually simulate people's opinions on political
Mm-hmm.
questions. And so the initially it was more telling the LLM, hey, behave as a Republican, this age, this region, then here's a backstory, and then tell me how you would vote on this question.
Yeah.
And so fascinating idea of being able to simulate, human behavior. Very quickly, this got picked up in marketing. And so we started
Right.
seeing, I think probably 2023 or so, early papers saying that maybe we can do Conjoint, for example, using some
Right.
respondents or other like maybe perceptual maps and other types of market research. So at the time, it was mostly what I would call synthetic data, which is usually demographics and then maybe a short backstory, like a persona,
Mm.
asking the LLM to behave like this synthetic, person. And so that's exciting, but we quickly found that, well, it's, there's not maybe a lot of variation in the answers, and maybe sometimes there could be a bit of bias. The model maybe
Yeah.
tends to be systematically Republican or Democrat, and there's also some systematic biases. So then the next evolution was, well, maybe if we can get more information on a given person, so I'm going to maybe get a lot of data on Sima, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to be able to create a twin, a digital twin of Sima that is really going to mirror her behavior. If we
Yeah.
do that for her and 2,000 other people, maybe actually would have a panel of
Mm.
digital twins. So it will still be a silicon sample, but because it will be trained based on these real humans, it will have more heterogeneity. It will capture the nuance of their behaviors,
Yeah.
able to replicate your own cognitive style. And so that's when the digital twins came up as a way to do synthetic data maybe in a more accurate manner. So it's a
Mm.
bit more costly because you have to put together all the data. But this is the promise. And so I think the idea started, floating around, I would say 2024. And so at that time, we with sort of excitement on this, and we were just curious whether it would work and how it would work.
Yeah.
And so we decided that it might be a good idea to actually put together a data set that would actually allow us to create twins of people to be able to predict their behavior, because there was no publicly available data. And we
Right.
thought, well, we should, it would be useful for the field, for industry and academia to have resources, data to be able to learn faster together. So we don't,
Yeah.
instead of relying on proprietary data and I can replicate what you're doing,
Right.
common benchmark, common data.
We
So we
kind of all
started
learn together. Yeah.
exactly learn together. If it's gonna work, not work, how it can be
Right.
improved. You probably remember neuromarketing in the mid
Yes.
2000s.
Yeah.
Similarly, like some initial studies saying, oh, you can put people in an fMRI machine, look into their
Yeah.
brains, and then predict how they're going to behave. And so everyone got so excited.
Yeah.
Hundreds of millions of dollars being spent on gurus and this.
Yeah.
And 15 years later, well, doesn't really work.
Yeah.
So, and then,
Interesting. Yeah.
so I think we should not replicate this. If
Right.
it's going to work, we should find out quickly. If it's not going to
Yep.
work, we should not spend 15 years. And there's probably some way to make it work better, but we need to have common resources to be able to move together and learn
Yeah.
together, as you said. So we started actually with a small group of colleagues at Columbia, a business school in computer science. And so
Okay.
in the early 20, so about a year ago, a bit more than a year ago, 2025, we put together these data sets. We interviewed over 2,000 people on the Prolific, which is
Mhm.
a consumer panel, and
Yeah.
representative on the demographics. We asked them, basically, we put together a hot, like all the possible scales we could find from psychology, business,
Sure.
economics, IQ questions, scales, Big Five, all these other like lots of different economic games. So we basically, let's throw in everything we know about
Yeah.
human behavior. Let's see, probably we don't need all of these, but let's just throw it anywhere.
Yeah.
Then, so this way we don't miss anything. So we had these pretty big. So first of all, we were very lucky to get very generous funding from the school, from Conjoint Business
Columbia.
School.
Yep.
So they say, yeah, let's do this. Here's enough money to do this,
Go
which is
for it. Yeah.
quite a lot, and go for it. So we're very grateful to the school, and so we're able to put together the data set, over 2,000 people, each answering over 500 questions over 4 different waves. And so that was the initial thing we did. So putting basically these blueprints, and the data set is publicly available. It's on Hugging Face. It's available to anyone. And
Yeah, I checked it out. Yep.
it's kind of unique in its breadth, actually. Even if you don't care about synthetic data, there's not a lot of data sets with that many people answering such a wide range of questions. So it's pretty interesting, we think, for science in general. And so that was kind of, and so we started looking at creating digital twins and doing some initial tests on this data set. It looked pretty promising. And then that's when a lot of colleagues was, oh, that's really cool. I want to try this in the luxury
Yeah.
consumption. How about, news consumption? And how about misinformation and privacy preferences? And so we said, well, let's try. So we basically ask anyone who has a study that they want to run that come within Columbia Business School.
Sure.
So we ended up with the 23 co-authors. Together, we designed 19 new studies,
Nice.
wide range of studies. And then we went back to the same 2,000 people. We ran the studies on these 2,000 people and on their twins. So each question that a human answered, we asked exactly the same question to the digital twin. So we're able to compare across 164 different outcomes, the answer from the humans to the answer from the twins, apple to apple. And so really to be able to see, what domains do they work better, like political domain versus, personality skills and so on and so forth. And so that's what the study we did. And I mean, it's very exciting, but to be honest, the performance was a bit lower than we were hoping.
What you thought?
When we thought, if you look at the accuracy, so whether Sima's answer is close to Sima's twins answer, it looks pretty good on the surface, but actually we find that adding the 500 questions that you answer doesn't really help versus just your demographics. So it was a bit disappointing.
It does help or it does not help?
Very little, basically no, almost no help in terms of the accuracy. In our study, again, and maybe there's better ways to create your twin. So that's what the data are publicly available. We hope that people will find better ways to get the twins to behave. But we just use what we know and we do find that it works a little bit better in terms of ranking people. So if I think Sima is going to answer, more than Olivier on this, then actually we do find that we're slightly better able to predict the correlation between twins and humans. But the correlation still remains pretty low. Basically, we found a correlation of only 0.2 between the human answers and the twin answers, which is about the same as the correlation between height and IQ. So it's not really very high. But here it does a little bit better, when you have the full information. So that's, the state of where we are. But we do find actually, I think, a few things from that. One of them is that actually human behavior is very hard to predict. I think it's we tend to sometimes be a bit arrogant and think that we can predict behavior very well because we have all these wonderful scales and models but actually it's not. We're
complicated, we're messy, and we're depending on the day and your interaction with somebody, and it's really
and definitely. And so we find that it's maybe we need to have the right expectations, that we should not expect a 0.9 correlation between the twin and the humans. Because these are very hard things to predict. We find that the twins are able. So what's really exciting, I think, about digital twins is their ability to predict what we call out of distribution. So which means that they're able to predict your answers to a question that you've never seen before, that the researcher has never seen before. So I'm going to have these new concepts, these new products. For feedback, even though there's no data from you that is directly
tell you.
And so that's really exciting, and we find that there is some ability to do that. But again, there's only so much we can predict about human behavior based on what we find.
And there's a thesis here that says you can predict, not that you said it, but you can predict like high turn, high velocity item choice because it doesn't take into emotion, values, culture, which I have an opinion on this, but it's good enough information to get from a digital twin versus when you get the highly invested decisions of a house or a law, whatever those really big decisions are, that's really harder to use digital twins for because all the complexity of human beings comes into play. But I've also heard people say, no, also those fast turn items still, even though you're not in your subconsciously, that still weighs in the decisions. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah. So one of the things we're trying to understand is when does it work better?
Mhm.
So the study that I mentioned, we do have early evidence that, for example, it doesn't do very well on political decisions, does a bit better on human tech interactions. So we find some
Okay.
domains, and we're doing some new tests now. And so one of the things we find also is that digital twins tend to be a bit more hyper rational than
Uh,
humans,
yeah.
because they're basically, it's an LLM that has information about you, but the
Yeah.
LLM knows almost everything, and it has
Yeah.
unlimited reasoning capabilities. And so we find that questions that involve rational behavior or knowledge, typically the twin is not able to mimic the behavior of the human. It tends to be hyper rational,
I
hyper
see.
knowledgeable. And then we have a recent test that we're running in which we compare, for example, the reaction to a video or commercial,
Mhm.
like, visual material versus claims that are more
Yeah.
text-based. And
Yeah.
we have some early evidence that actually they tend to do better on the text-based claim, which are a bit more
Okay.
cognitive, a bit more. So because you said it's hard for the airline to capture emotional,
Emotion.
affect-based, and
Yeah.
so, for example, we're still analyzing the data, so it's still a bit early to don't call me yet on this. I mean,
No, no, I
you can
won't.
call me, but it's still tentative.
It's
But for
early.
example, maybe if you show a video, maybe the human will say, "Oh, I don't like the voice of this person, or I don't like this color." But the
Right.
twin is going to look more at the rational, the facts.
Yeah.
So it's hard to replicate the thought
All the
process.
other stuff
Yeah,
that's
that's
going on.
that
Yeah.
makes us human with all the affect
Yeah.
decisions, the shortcuts we take, and so on and so forth. So we
Yeah.
still don't know exactly yet what questions work better. There's indications, but
Yeah.
I don't have a full answer. And even if I tell you this works better in this versus that, it's not going to be a huge range. It's not
Yeah. Yeah.
like you get perfect prediction in one and zero in the
Right.
other, but there is
Right.
some variation.
What do you think that, like, a lot of, as I mentioned before we got on, I was at a conference last week and everything was about AI and, obviously AI for workflow makes a lot of sense. AI, synthetic data was another area, but a lot of the conversation was around saying synthetic is better than response data, questionnaire, long form feedback from a questionnaire because of the fraud and the time and everything else. But what do you see as synthetic being like? What's the driver here in terms of why people are so curious and excited?
Mm,
I'm
yeah.
curious your perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. It promises to give you the holy grail of better,
Yeah,
faster, cheaper. So
right.
faster is pretty
Sure.
clear. Although
Always on.
you still have to construct the instruments. You have to,
Yeah.
know what you're going to ask about. You still need to analyze the data, but in terms of the collection, you don't have to wait for, I mean, frankly, if you post something on Prolific, you can get hundreds of people in an hour. So
Yeah.
it's definitely faster,
Minutes
yeah,
versus
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it is faster.
Yeah.
Cheaper, yes, also.
Right.
It's not free. I mean, there's a misconception. It's free. It's not free. It costs
Right.
money to access the API. And if you want to create tweets, it costs money to get the intake questionnaires. But typically, it is cheaper. Definitely, it could be an order of magnitude cheaper. So let's check and check. The better is the question mark.
Yeah.
So on the positive side, maybe indeed your synthetic respondents will give you detailed answers. They tend to be more
Mm.
verbose. They don't get tired. They don't
Right.
necessarily
They're
lie.
not bored. They're not
You,
distracted.
you can ask them, questions that you may not be able to ask humans that may be sensitive,
Ah,
ethical.
fair.
One thing also very attractive is that, let's say you want to do an A/B test. With humans, I have to assign some people to A and other people to B, because if I
Right.
show A and B to the same people, it will be contaminated. With synthetic data, actually, I can ask A and B to the same persona, because there will be different API calls. There will be no memory, no contamination.
Interesting.
I can do true A/B test within a person, which is fantastic. So that's all. They also, they're able to give you their thought process allegedly. So that's all on the possibly better. Now the question is whether the answers are authentic. Do they
Yeah.
match human behavior? Can you replicate the complexity of human cognition? And can you capture the affect-based responses?
Mhm.
And so that's one where the jury is still out, and
Mm.
it seems like there's going to need to be quite a bit of work to get it
Yeah.
to a level that's at least I would be comfortable,
Right. Saying I'm going to use this.
saying, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and also I think one thing is that I often see people looking at only the numbers, oh, 80% accurate, good
Yeah.
enough, thumbs up, let's go. I think it's important to go beyond the 80% or the whatever it is. First,
Yeah.
understand what does it mean. So 80% as opposed to what? What was the benchmark? But
Mm.
also what happens in the other 20%?
Right.
Because we do find that there are some systematic biases that could actually influence business decisions.
Mm.
Or we find the twins to be more pro-technology than humans. And
I
so
see.
you're launching a technology product and you're getting feedback
They're
from,
going to be biased.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe, oh, technology is great, we love technology. And so it's not just about the accuracy number, it's also about the content. And I think we
Mm.
need to go beyond just the number. But yeah, but definitely huge promise. I think also more practically, a lot of companies are under a lot of pressure to do something with AI, to
Yeah.
shift AI forward, that they're not missing out. And it's maybe an easy way for companies to show,
To
hey, we're
check
doing
the box.
something with AI, we're checking the box.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have, there's some cynical views on that which we can save for later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's also, yeah, it's attractive, it's cool, it's exciting, and it's very promising. And also, by the way, another one that we haven't discussed yet is that it also, so again, just like we discussed earlier, the first instinct
Yeah.
is to do what we're already doing and just
Right.
doing it
And
differently.
just
But there's
replicate it. Yeah.
also incremental things. Like if you want to have a focus group with a group of CTOs or
Mm.
a chief, chief counsels, it's very hard to do this with real humans, just to
Yes.
schedule. But actually, with synthetic data, possibly you can talk to very niche people that are very hard to reach in the
Yeah.
real world. So it augments also the type of data you can get.
Yeah.
So it just opens up even new opportunities.
And that might be good enough, quote unquote, right? Just to like message test within a hard to reach audience and get feedback. I could see that. And I'm curious from your perspective, is it d d I know you're still researching everything, but do you feel like a lot of the kind of the excitement around it is really based on the commercial aspect? Like, there's a lot of money coming in, and there's a lot of hype, like you talked about neuromarketing. I is it similar from your perspective? And what did you learn from the other part of the hype of neuromarketing to where we are today?
Yeah, I think there's definitely, it captures our imagination when
Yeah.
we can get into we can get into your brain, like, control what you have. It's like, as humans, we like to think we have control
Ex
over. So
yeah.
it's like basically it's exciting to think that maybe um, we can use technology to control humans, to have deep insight into
Yeah.
humans. So I think that's a fantasy we have. So that's definitely
Yes.
exciting. And then there is also there's people who make bold claims that
Mhm.
capture the imagination of people, and that look very promising on the surface. And
Mm.
so that's definitely also something we see here. And also just the potential is huge. So even if there's a risk, it might not really work.
Yeah.
It's a bet that you probably want to
Yeah.
take. And then there's the fear of missing out that kicks in. Like, then people, oh,
The
everyone is
big
doing
deal.
this,
Yeah.
everyone is doing it better than we are, so we have to catch
Yeah.
up. So that's definitely similar. I think social and psychological processes at play
Pressure.
here.
Yeah.
And I don't see it will have the same fate as neuromarketing, but I'm just saying that we should learn from the past
Yes, of course, of
and just
course.
take a
Yeah.
step back and think about, let's try to
Be
also,
balanced in the way we think about it.
and
Yeah.
try to be evidence-based and try to
Yeah.
look at the data and move together, learn together, and experiment
Yeah.
together and exchange knowledge to be able to get to some truth faster.
Yeah. What I find interesting is that, at least in the industry, so that now this is not academia, but in industry, the biggest, you know, kind of faster, cheaper for sure, but it's also quality, right? There's a lot of people that say there's so much fraud in survey data that it's, you can't count on it. But it feeds so many of the models in terms of
Mhm.
capturing and educating, the models. So I find that dichotomy a little it's interesting.
Yeah, so I guess fraud means that people are using AI to answer surveys. So you're
Yeah,
basically
answer surveys.
it's gonna be AI anyway. So might as well get AI for one
Right.
tenth of the price. I
Yeah,
think yeah, I mean I think some of the panels have put in place some AI checks
yeah,
and I mean in the data that we collected, I think we have it seems like the data are not just noise and garbage. I think we're seeing
yeah.
some some patterns that suggest there is quality. I think
Mm,
also there's some panels where the respondents actually take pride in their work and they want to share their voice with
yeah.
researchers. So I mean, it's hard to verify
It's
either
hard
way.
to understand. Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so this it's hard to just quantify.
yeah.
Um,
And also the other part of it is like, um, the word hydration. Like, how often do you have to hydrate a model in terms of, if you follow, with consent with a parent of a teen through their lifetime, you know, the world changes. I mean, we're living it now. The world changes every day. And so how often do you have to like continue to get a pulse of understanding from humans, and whether that's social media listening or whatever it might be, to be able to predict how the digital twin is gonna react.
So the social media listening is definitely one alternative way to get data to
Yeah.
train the digital twins.
Yeah.
I haven't tested it myself, but I've seen some presentations about it. It's
Yeah.
very interesting. Um, I think so. We have to remember that the digital twin is powered by an LLM, and
Yeah.
let's say GPT or Gemini themselves also evolve. So,
Sure.
and part of the social media data actually is going
So
to be actually
people, yeah.
fed into the model. So
Right.
if there's micro trends, some of the
Mm,
actually will be captured by the base LLM. Now,
yeah.
there's maybe you, Sima, maybe you evolve as a person
Mhm.
based on lifestyle and so on and so forth. And so that will be we need to capture that from
Yeah.
you directly. And so there, I mean, definitely. Uh, keeping your finger on the pulse of social media. Maybe some companies also have behavioral data, so maybe I can observe your
Yes.
transactions over time.
Right.
Your behavior allows me to refresh. I think also very promising model that's emerging is one in which we we have panels of humans that
Yeah.
actually agree to have their twins made, and they agree to also take surveys periodically. So maybe
Huh.
there's an intake questionnaire that to create my twin, and then once my twin has been created, maybe people will run
Keep
surveys
updating.
on
Yeah.
this. So each survey maybe 90% will come from synthetic respondents, but 10% will come from humans.
Got it.
And so that's a way to also refresh the human data. And it
Yeah.
also has the other benefit of then giving you some human data to calibrate the synthetic data.
Nice.
You have a
Yeah.
small sample of human data that you can use to debias maybe the model, and then use
Mhm.
synthetic data to augment the
Mm.
human. So that might be a compromise. So you're still getting the scale, from synthetic data, but at the same time, you run a few human
Yeah.
subjects, so it doesn't give you as much of a cost reduction, but maybe you're keeping the twins fresh and
Yeah.
probably in actual human behavior.
Yeah. So, a really personal question for you. Not that personal, but like, when you look at the digital twin data, do you really like you feel like you're getting human responses? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the verbatim, I mean, they tend to be pretty
Yeah.
pretty good. I think there's a bit of craft also in how you instruct the LLM to
Okay.
sound more human. So we're
Yeah.
doing some research now with one of my colleagues in which we have people talk to their own twins. And so we
Oh,
wanted to make sure that actually the twin sounds like them, at least like a
right.
human.
So
So
they're
it could be,
training them to sound like them.
yeah. So we had to tweak the system prompt quite a bit
Yeah.
to remove some of the LLM speak, and to
Got it.
make sure that the twins sounded human. But yeah, there is. I mean, again, it may not have no many personal things about you, but it might sound pretty human. You can make it
Humans. Yeah.
sound more or less
Yeah.
human. Yes.
Well, I so appreciate you joining me today, Olivier. It's fascinating. I'm glad I stumbled upon your research, and I look forward to keeping in touch as we continue to navigate and understand the application of
Thank you. Thanks for
AI in
having me.
your research. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me. Okay.
And if people want to learn more about your research, do you want to share where they can
Oh,
find it?
yeah, yeah. So actually, we created a digital twins lab actually at Conjoint Business School. So I'm gonna
Okay.
put in the chat the
Okay.
link here. So all the resources are there.
Great.
And actually, we want to democratize this. We want to make it
Yep.
easy for people to test, to experiment with little cost and friction. So we're actually putting together a platform where people will be able to run studies on our twins.
Okay.
You can create a quadric survey, upload to the platform, or ask any
Nice.
question.
Yeah.
So we're still in beta phase, but we're hoping soon to be able to offer this. We won't be able to do it for free because there's API costs involved, but it would be
Sure.
a minimal fee, and you can very quickly, for a few dollars, basically try it out yourself, and then see for yourself, if they sound human, if the
Right.
results look
You can
good.
learn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so trying to basically make it easy to learn. So that's also coming soon. Hopefully, everything will be available from this website.
Awesome. I'll just put that in the show notes when we publish the
Yeah,
episode.
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so much for your time. I
All
appreciate it.
right. Well, have a good day then.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye. Take care. Bye.